Hello and welcome to the Winging It Travel podcast with me, James Hammond. Personally, I have been to 50 countries. I've met so many people on my travels that I want to bring on this podcast and get their story on record. I have plenty of tips and stories to share with you as well. Are you a backpacker, or a traveller, or gap year student, or simply someone who loves to travel? Then this is the podcast for you. Throughout the weeks and months, you'll get many guests and solo episodes where I try to cover all range of subjects within travel. This is a casual and informative travel podcast to inspire you to travel in the future. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Thanks for listening and supporting this, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, James. Hey, just a quick one. I just want to say there are many ways to support this podcast. You can buy me a coffee and help support the podcast with $5, or you can go to my merch store with the affiliate link with TeePublic, where there's plenty of merch available to buy, such as t-shirts, jumpers, hoodies, and also some children's clothing. Thirdly, which is free, you can also rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or Good Pods. Also, you can find me on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Simply just search for Winging It Travel Podcast, and you'll find me displaying all my social media content for travelling, podcasts, and other stuff. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to one of the very last few Friday episodes before I set off on my travels. And today, just thought I'd go through my cheeky packing list that I've got for my travels and my idea behind it. I've got a reading and a podcast list, how I'm going to do some podcasting when I'm interrailing in Europe and some ideas there, and also just touch on the previous guests and episodes before we wrap up. So packing, I'm intending to take smallish baggage because I don't want to check any luggage in. So I've got an Osprey Farpoint 40 litre backpack for that. I used it for Greece, fantastic. Although I did say in one of the episodes that if you're going on a real low cost airline, you won't fit it underneath the seat. And if you don't get it above the seat, chaos. So that would have to be checked in. I'm also going to have just like an extra cheeky day pack alongside that, like a 20 litre bag. And that'll be 60 litres in total. That should be enough. But it's not going to be too much space left because I've got my tech and all my clothes, which I'll go through in a minute. That's the coolest way to travel, I think. We can leave some stuff in the van, in the camper van, for our road trip in Canada. But obviously we've got to take it with us after that. But we'll see how that goes. In terms of clothing, I've not got too much. I've only got this as a list of stuff to take. I've got 5 t-shirts, which are pretty much my podcast t-shirts. And I've got 2 sporting tops for the walking and hiking that we're going to be doing. And I've also got 5 pairs of trousers, which sounds quite a lot, but 2 are hiking trousers, 1 are loungewear, 1 are linen, and I've got a pair of jeans. That's quite bulky, isn't it? I might cover a lot of bases, but got to weigh up if I need all of them. And also I've got, the usual pair of socks, 7 pairs of boxer shorts, may take 10, but they take up a surprising amount of room that I discovered in Greece. 3 jackets, so one's like a grey, warm, nice jacket, one's a fleecy type thing. And I've also got a rain jacket, which is quite thick. Won't be great in the warm weather, I'll be sweltering there. It's great keeping me dry, so we'll weigh that one up. My 3 footwears, flip-flops, hiking trainers, which are my Solomons, and my Vessies for walking day to day. They cover all bases, happy with that. Overall, I don't think it sounds too bad, but actually it's quite bulky, I think, especially the trousers section. Anyway, I'm going to go with that as my day-to-day until we get back to the camper van in June. See how that goes. Now, tech is a little bit different. I've got a MacBook Pro, an iPad, which I think one of us will carry one of each, so that's fine. But I've got like 2 USB mics. I've got a lavalier mic, which is the smallest mic I have, which attaches to my t-shirt and into my phone. I've got a Boya mic, which is like 2 in 1. They can go into the iPad. If I'm interviewing someone, we could be on the same recording. And just little stuff like chargers, adapters. I've got my Rode mic to go with my camera. And obviously my camera, which is actually really bulky. I experienced that in Greece. I thought, wow, this takes up arguably the most room. It's actually quite annoying. And I can't really get around it. I've got a mini tripod and a big tripod. That big tripod, I've really got to weigh up. Is it worth carrying around until I get back in June? I'm thinking not, because it's actually quite big. But that'd be perfect for the road trip, because then if we're by like a nice lake and we're just camping there, I can set it up, get a sunrise, get a sunset, whatever it is. So that's pretty cool. And then you've got all the miscellaneous stuff, the toiletries and other stuff that you need to go with it, documents, etc. I think that would all fit into my 40 litre Osprey bag and my 20 litre day pack bag. So I'm hoping that will cover all bases. I can't think of anything else I'm missing. If you think I need something that's quality, let me know. Tell you one thing I will have to get, I keep forgetting to buy them, is those arm pads. If you're like walking in the sun, but you don't want to wear a long sleeve t-shirt, you can get those arm pads that cover your arms so you don't get sunburn. Obviously you can wear sun cream, but I found out in Spain it doesn't really always work. I'm also missing the classic hoodie. We'll see about that. But as we're going into Europe during the February, March, it's going to be quite cool, cold in some places, especially in the mountains as well. I think it will cover all bases in that section, and then going into Turkey, Middle East, it's going to get warmer. That's what I'm going with. And other things to go alongside that, like admin, if you like. Travel insurance is going to go with SafetyWing, because you can pay per month. And I've got enough insurances to keep going odd trips. Like one travel insurance will probably cover a month, another will cover another month. So I think we'll get that sorted for sort of like the last 2 or 3 months of our travels before we get back here in June. If you want to sign up with them, you can use my affiliate link in the show notes. And that's kind of my packing list as a whole. Scarily, we've got to sort our stuff out here and not take that with us. So we've got to really analyse that and weigh it all up. I've got a few pairs of extra shoes I'm not taking. I love them, but I just can't take them, can't justify it. It's really time to be minimalistic and also quite ruthless. You can't get too emotional about these things you think you're connected to, because you're not going to need them all. Like even 5 t-shirts, I could take 10, but not enough space, no need for it. Now, my reading and my podcast list. My reading last year wasn't brilliant, so I made it a bit of a point this year to, if I have time on the road with the podcasts, etc., and obviously the adventures, I'm going to try and get some books under my belt. So here we go. Here's maybe the first list in terms of what I'm hoping to get through in the first half of the year. Now, I do like Dr. Tali Sharot, so I'm going to read her book, The Influential Mind and Optimism Bias. They're 2 on my list. I'm also going to make a point to read Johann Hari's Stolen Focus, a really good book about how we just can't concentrate these days and we're affected by phones, etc. Guilty there. Gabor Mate, going to read his new book, The Myth of Normal. I've got Emma Thompson's book to kind of finish. I love reading that in Greece, but I want to save it for the trip. So Quiet Escapes is going to get a read. And I've got a book for Christmas called The Marsh Arabs by Wilfred Thesiger, I think is his name, which I remember watching about them in one of the travel TV shows I've seen. So that's my reading list. My podcast list is going to be the Better Travel Podcast, Alpaca My Bags Podcast, of course. Court Case Podcast is another favourite of mine. And I do like watching Diary CEO on YouTube. I don't like all the guests, but I like some of the guests. And Stephen Bartlett's pretty cool. He's all right. And the Huberman Lab, I do like listening to sciencey stuff. That's going to be my listening and reading list. Interrailing and organising interviews. I've already got something started for Paris. I've got a few contacts that are going to come in on the podcast. One's a local who's from Paris, and one is now a local but is from Australia. Don't want to say too much yet. But on a 1 month pass, because we're doing a lot of city breaks in all these different countries, so roughly in order like Paris, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Italy, Austria, Slovenia, Slovakia maybe, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria and Turkey. The basic city breaks in each of those countries pretty much. And my idea is to try and get in contact through social media or through my contacts in the podcasting industry to see if anyone knows any locals in that area who want to come on for an interview and meet in person. Failing that, I'm going to try and obviously go on this free walking tours and get some contacts that way, because they're normally in English, so that's quite a privilege to have that. So city hopping away to Turkey, yeah, it's a good start. I've got some contacts for the first few trips. That Micronations tour I'm doing before I start my trip, me and a couple of friends are going away to do Monaco, Vatican City and San Marino, and of course Rome in the end. That is going to be an interesting trip. They might come on for that as well. Actually, one of those people is Adam Bamford, my first guest on this podcast, and that'll be almost 2 years to the day. So that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, my technique is to reach out to people, social media, even on this podcast, and anyone can contact me with a recommendation and I'll get in contact and see if I can arrange something. And the idea is to kind of have shorter episodes for my day-to-day, where am I, what am I doing, who I'm meeting, etc. But even the local interviews, they're not going to be 2 hours long. They're going to be fairly short, 40 to 50 minutes, because they're more specific to the area. Like the ones in Paris are about Paris. We're not talking about really anything else. I'm going to try and get a lot of them on record, but also I will still try to get the long form guest episodes if I can arrange time in terms of where I am, if the Wi-Fi is any good, can I fit it in with our travels. Try and do all that and a YouTube series. Wish me luck. To finish the episode, so we had jet setter Julia come on a few weeks ago. She's just recently released her new business of one-to-one coaching for digital nomads. So please check her profile out on TikTok or Instagram. And she has a link in her link tree to what she's offering. Very, very interesting because she's been on the road for a while and she's made it last. Even I need tips off her. So in my mind for that, more about how to make money on the road as opposed to travel, but she does both. So that's good for you as well. Love the episode, learnt a lot. Very popular episode, that one. Angela Santos came on this week to talk about Jordan and Pakistan. Fantastic guest as always, Angela. She's always welcome. There may be a small possibility I'm going to meet her in person in Beirut in March, so watch this space. That would be pretty cool. I think there's a meeting point at the end of her next trip to the start of mine on the 27th of March, so we'll see. I've got my 100th episode recording this weekend. It's going to be a super fun episode. You may know or guess what it's going to be, but I've got a cool idea. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be released not Monday coming, but the Monday after. That's crazy. I've got so many guests kind of recorded or lined up. It's actually been a really busy January. I've got more coming in, which is fantastic. It's going to be a weird period of time between January to February because I'm changing time zones. All my access to like Zoom's going to go, so I don't have access to that. And I need to figure out what's next in terms of recording a longer form of podcast. My Calendly, which I use to keep up to date my calendar, that's going to have to change time zones. And I won't be in the same time zone. I'll be going to UK then Europe, which is 1 hour difference and all this sort of stuff. It's going to be an interesting period. I've got nothing actually booked in for February because I've tried to avoid it thus far. But I've had a lot in the bank in December and January to give me a bit of a buffer in Feb before I crack on with the Micronations tour and then the actual travels itself. There may be a window of opportunity 10 days before going to Micronations tour to do some interviews, but we'll see. And just thanks everyone for their support. That episode that I released, the solo one about us going away, is actually one of the most popular of the last 6 months. I checked the other day, which is crazy already, which is mental. So thanks for the support. Even everyone at work's been great. Personal life, social media messages have been great. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there and see what I can find in terms of an adventure, but also meet people, try some real trendy coffees and get those recorded on the other podcast, try the different foods. And I've got a few activities that I want to do, especially like paragliding, that's on my list, and going on a hot air balloon, those sort of things. But I will make a list of more specific things I want to do probably near the time. At the minute, it's just wrapping things up, and that takes up most of our time. So I'm going to finish the episode there. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, we have a fantastic guest from the Expat Money podcast, Mikhail Thorup. Got a lot of stuff crammed in. He's travelled to 110 countries, so it's going to be a cool episode to check out on Monday. We'll crack on with January into February. Thanks for tuning in. I don't think there'll be too many more of these Friday episodes when I crack on travelling, so maybe 2 or 3 more, probably more specific to what I'm thinking about the trip and what's coming up. So cheers for that. Catch you soon. Have a good one.